Imagine this. Your next-door neighbors, the ones who smile at you over the fence, borrow sugar, and post cute family photos on Facebook, are hiding a corpse in their backyard. And not just any corpse, it's their own father. Killed, buried, covered up. And the killers? His two daughters. You're probably thinking, wait, what? Yeah, you heard me. This isn't a horror movie plot. This is an actual case. One so twisted it made seasoned detectives go pale. Because here's the thing, this isn't just a murder. This is a story about decades of silence, rage, secrets, and a backyard grave that could have stayed hidden forever if one tiny detail hadn't unraveled the entire cover-up. Please like and subscribe to our channel and become a vaulter. Turn on the bell so that you won't miss out on the part 2 of this chilling story. Thank you. Now back to the story. It starts in a quiet, middle-class neighborhood, the kind with freshly mowed lawns, Christmas lights in December, and neighbors who think they know each other's business. The father, let's call him Martin Hayes, is in his late 50s. Not the fun dad, not the cool dad, more like the type who keeps his blinds closed and his opinions sharp. Divorced, keeps to himself, lives with his two adult daughters, Rachel and Sophie, both in their 20s. From the outside, it's just 3 family members making it work. People figured the daughters were living at home to save money. Totally normal, right? But inside that house, a very, very different story was playing out. The whispers started small. Martin was intense, controlling, the kind of dad who sent "Where are you?" texts every time they stepped outside. Sometimes neighbors overheard him through the thin walls, loud, aggressive, accusatory. And then something shifted. Rachel's friends noticed she'd gone quiet. She stopped showing up to weekend hangouts. Her social media turned into a ghost town. Sophie, the younger one, got defensive if anyone asked about home. We're fine. Dad's just dad. But the truth? Martin had been hurting them for years. Not the kind of hurt you bounce back from. The kind that traps you in a cage of shame and fear. Rachel, the eldest, had been abused since her early teens. Sophie followed the same fate. And if you're wondering why they never told anyone, here's the ugly truth. When your abuser is family, people are quick to doubt you. Sometimes you doubt you. And that's exactly how it stayed hidden. By 2023, life inside the Hayes home was suffocating. Martin controlled when they left the house, what they wore, how long they could be gone. He monitored their phones, their computers. The abuse wasn't loud anymore. It had gone quiet, the kind that hides in plain sight. Psychological hooks digging deeper. And then came the breaking point. On the night it happened, neighbors recall nothing. No shouts, no crashes, no running, just silence. Later, Sophie would tell detectives, it wasn't planned until it was. Rachel brought up first. The sisters sat in the dim kitchen, drinking cheap wine, whispering the same conversation they'd had for years. When will this end? But this time, Rachel didn't mean waiting. She meant ending him. The decision was fast, almost too fast. Hours, not days. The plan was simple. Wait until he was asleep. Make it quick. Make it final. Martin was on the couch, TV flickering, beer sweating in his hand. The medical examiner's report later revealed a single, devastating blow to the head, the kind that causes instant unconsciousness. But the sisters didn't stop there. Multiple strikes. Defensive wounds on his forearm suggest he woke for a split second before the final blow. And just like that, it was over. They wrapped him in the same blanket he'd been using. No screaming, no breakdown, just mechanical movements. The backyard became the burial site. The soil was damp from a storm earlier that week, which made digging easier, but messy. A neighbor would later recall seeing the sisters out back late at night, shovels in hand, working on a garden. They were sweaty, hair tied back, barely making eye contact. They dug for hours. 6 feet down, they laid his body in, covered with soil, then topped it with fresh mulch and a few potted plants. By morning, it looked like a Pinterest project. Weeks passed. Life moved on, or at least appeared to. When people asked where Martin was, they shrugged. He's staying with a friend, or he's traveling for work. The man wasn't exactly social, so no one thought much of it until Sophie slipped. It happened during drinks with a friend. One too many, and she let it out. "You don't get it, he's never coming back." The friend laughed until Sophie followed with, "Promise me you'll never tell anyone." That promise lasted less than 48 hours. A wellness check was ordered. Detectives arrived on a sunny afternoon. Rachel answered the door, her voice calm, her face blank. "Dad's not here. He's traveling." But cops read vibes for a living. And this one, off. They asked to look around. The house was tidy, eerily so. No sign of Martin's usual clutter. Out back, the soil caught their attention. Too even, too new. Within hours, the yard was a crime scene. Shovels in. The smell hit first, the sour, metallic scent of decomposition. Underneath, Martin Hayes. Shallow grave. Same blanket from the couch. Forensics took over. The blanket held trace fibers from the couch cushions. The soil layers showed disturbance consistent with burial. The body's position suggested haste, not care. Autopsy results were clear. Multiple blunt force injuries, consistent with a heavy household object, likely a hammer or similar tool. Toxicology showed no drugs or alcohol beyond the beer he'd been drinking. In the interrogation room, Rachel sat like a statue. Sophie sobbed. At first, they stuck to their story. "He left. We don't know where he is." Detectives laid out the evidence. Dirt under their nails. Inconsistencies in their alibis. Search history on Sophie's laptop. How deep to bury a body and how long before a body smells. They broke. What came out wasn't just a confession. It was a lifetime of pain, abuse, threats, isolation, and the belief that no one would save them unless they saved themselves. When the media got hold of it, the internet exploded. Some saw them as cold-blooded killers. Others, survivors who snapped. The moral debate was everywhere. Does years of abuse explain, if not justify, murder? But the law doesn't do moral gray very well. Rachel and Sophie were charged with second-degree murder. No bail. Straight to county jail. And that's where this goes from tragic to unbelievable. Because when the trial started, it stopped being just about the killing. It became a public dissection of why it happened. And whether that mattered, the defense painted a picture of two young women trapped in a nightmare, finally fighting back. The prosecution painted a picture of calculated, deliberate murder. And the verdict? The trial of Rachel and Sophie Hayes didn't just draw a crowd. It pulled the whole town, and then the whole internet, into a whirlpool of drama, rage, and uncomfortable questions. From day one, the courthouse steps became a stage. Protesters held signs. Some read, "Justice for Martin." Others read, "Free the Hayes sisters." The two camps didn't mix. One side saw a murdered man. The other saw the wreckage of an abusive father finally stopped. Reporters swarmed like vultures. Photographers caught every second. The sisters in orange jumpsuits, heads down, walking in shackles between deputies. People zoomed in on the photos, commenting on everything from their posture to their shoes, like it was a red carpet. Inside, the trial felt less like a legal proceeding and more like a psychological autopsy. The defense strategy was crystal clear. Show the jury every scar Martin left behind, physical and emotional. They brought in old neighbors who recalled screaming matches, unexplained bruises, late-night fights that ended with the sisters hiding at a friend's house. But the prosecution? They weren't here to debate parenting styles. They were here to prove one thing, premeditation. That kitchen wine-fueled conversation, the hammer in the garage, the fresh mulch covering the grave. To them, it was cold, calculated murder. They hammered, no pun intended, on the timeline. How the sisters went from talking about ending the abuse to ending Martin in mere hours. How Sophie had Googled burial depths 2 days earlier, not that night. How Rachel had bought the mulch and potted plants a week before. Jurors leaned forward at that one. And then came the weapon, the hammer, or at least what the prosecution claimed was a hammer. It wasn't found in the house, but an identical model was located in a dumpster a few streets over, with traces of blood and hair still clinging to the metal. The lab confirmed the DNA matched Martin. Sophie cried through most of the evidence presentation. Rachel didn't. That difference became its own mini-trial in the court of public opinion. Social media lit up. Sophie looks broken. Rachel looks like she's plotting her next move. Of course, a blank face in court could mean anything, but in the age of TikTok body language experts, the narrative was already locked in. Then, the twist no one saw coming. The defense called Sophie to the stand. And in the middle of describing years of abuse, she slipped, just like with her friend before the arrest. She admitted that part of her didn't regret it. You could feel the air leave the courtroom. The prosecution's lead attorney smiled like she'd just been handed a gift-wrapped conviction. The defense tried to recover, reminding the jury that trauma messes with your emotions. That relief after abuse is not proof of malice. But the damage was done. And just when you thought that was the worst hit they could take, the prosecution rolled out Exhibit 47, a series of text messages between the sisters weeks before Martin's death. Rachel, one day will be free. Sophie, why wait? The courtroom erupted. The judge had to slam the gavel 3 times to shut it down. By now, the jury had seen the crime scene photos, heard the autopsy results, watched the video of the police digging up the backyard. But these messages, they were different. They were intimate. Pre-death planning, wrapped in casual sibling banter. The trial was almost over, but public opinion wasn't. News crews camped outside the sisters' old house. True crime YouTubers, yes, people like us, were dissecting the evidence in real time. Hashtag blew up. Hashtag hey sisters. Hashtag justice for who. Hashtag Pinterest grave. And the sisters? They just sat there. Rachel staring at the jury like she was daring them to believe her. Sophie twisting tissues in her lap until they shredded. The closing arguments were set for Friday morning. The prosecution would go for murder. The defense would plead for manslaughter. The judge told the jury to prepare for a long deliberation. But something was about to happen. Because Friday morning, before the jury even heard the final words, a piece of evidence the defense had been holding back would drop. Something that could either save the sisters' lives or seal their fate forever. And trust me, you're not ready for what it is. Subscribe to our channel to know when the next story drops. Thanks, Vaulters.